to AOS Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Age of Sigmar Mondays. That's right. It's probably a day. Well, it looks like I'm trapped in this box. Oh no, turn the audio on. Hello, welcome to the show. Hello to everyone who's joined us live. Specifically, all of the people who subscribe, like Mr. Teej just has. Oh, sorry, Mr. Teeger. Sorry, that's how you say it. Who's just joined us live, sub for 11 months. I want to say a big shout out to everyone else. Gursey, hello, O'Reaper and Gitley. I'm joined today by two wonderful people, Mr. Nathan Prescott. Hello, Nath.
Hello. How's it going?
It's particularly well because you haven't made me do any physical labour today, so I'm feeling much better than last week, which is nice. And we're also joined by Mr. Dan Say. Hello, sir. How are you?
G'day, beautiful people. It's lovely to be here. I'm well. I'm caffeinated. How are you?
Me?
Yeah.
Hot. Warm. I'd even describe myself as. Arguably moist is my current feeling. It's a little bit. It's got hotter and hotter in the office as the day has got on, but it's not too bad. It's my second show of the day, so I'm excited to be online again with my bros. Basically, Dan, how have you been?
I've been good. I mean, it's been a big week. It's been a big week this week for me, so I'm very glad to be able to cruise out for a moment, drink some coffee, talk to your lovely, beautiful faces, have your word nuggets poured into my ears, and do a little bit of war dollies myself.
Oh, perfect. What's been going on in your week?
Oh, just work has you know those weeks where you rock up and you're like, hell yeah, I got this. I'm ready for this. Mm-hmm. And then you get there and you're like, oh my lord, I was not ready. I'm like when Luke took on Darth Vader for the first time and lost a hand and everything he thought he knew and believed in. That was me. I do still have both my hands, but I started calling someone new daddy, and that was basically the week in a nutshell.
Oh wow, that was like me working on site with Nathan. It really was. It really was.
He pulled out the measuring tape and he was like, let's work out who's in charge.
Didn't take him long to work it out. That's what it was. Right, so my question is, Nathan, how have you been?
I've been grand. Yeah, just we did a little bit of work on your new studio last week. Then obviously I had to pull off onto a different job this week. The fucking sun snuck up on me and burnt my head, but otherwise all good.
Well, I've got a couple of questions for you. Number one, How do you think the new studio look when we're finished? What are your thoughts?
It's going to be white and loads of tables, hopefully.
Okay, good.
That's exactly how it will look as well. Yeah. I like that. It'll look like a room. This is the color, and it'll have some tables.
No feelings. It might look okay.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to look stunning. If you have feelings.
Good. Well done, Nath. From completely accurate description to selling out in a heartbeat. I appreciated that the whole way.
Right, that's it.
Big shout out to Dydrin in the chat, Azrak, and also my man Scrivo. What up, Scrivo? Hook and Pin, Owen Jackson. Yeah, I know, he's great. What up? Gitley, I miss Love Rat. Don't worry, we'll get him back. And Lou Diamond, Swampy is a good description. Nath, the second question I guess I've got to ask, because it's been gnawing at me all week. As a trainee, assistant, apprentice, how did I do?
As a trainee, assistant, apprentice?
Yeah, you're like, yeah.
Yeah, great job. Well done.
Nice. Not what I was expecting.
Keep up the good work.
Podcast people can't see you do a thumb.
All right, podcast people, picture this. A thumb.
Thumb. Good. All right. Well, I'm glad I didn't let the side down.
Just imagine where the thumb is in your head.
Yeah. Lucky Rob. Okay, well, I'm glad, because I did ask once where where the chimney was, and apparently that was the funniest thing you'd ever heard. And I still don't know. I still to this day.
Good value entertainment on site, yes, I must say.
I don't think that's what I wanted to be.
There's a hole in the wall. Is that a chimney? That's a great question.
It could have been a chimney. It was bricks.
Could have been a window. It could have been fuck knows.
Anyway.
But yeah. That was a good
Whatever.
choice.
Yeah, good choice. Okay, so updates on the venue, obviously. I don't know if I could update you live. Skip's coming this week, I think, and on Friday the carpet's coming. So exciting news. A lot of people questioning the carpet. The carpet's for sound, because if people are like I imagine some dickhead will just for some reason, based on how it's going so far, someone for some reason will just wear some tap shoes. They'll be like, I always wear tap shoes. I always wear tap shoes when I'm wargaming.
That's how I connect with the dice.
Yeah. My other
With a
option
bit
was
of river dance.
People rock in and you've got like shoe silencers and some glue that you just like as they walk across there's a test plate and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, and it's a piece of just a square of shag carpeting that you attach to each of their shoes.
I was thinking making it super classy, so you turned up and you got a pair of slippers given it to you at the door, shoes off, pair of
And a
T-Sports
robe.
Arena slippers. Yeah, and you just but I didn't think that would be particularly COVID safe, so I didn't do that. Yeah, you're right, Owen Jackson. Yeah, it's probably all them elven players like you, Dan, who end up tip-tap-toeing.
I was so excited that James wasn't going to be on this show, so I'd have 1 week without shame. But no, thank you, chat, for keeping us there.
Yeah. Go on,
Gitley has suggested someone rocks up with their clogs of Sigmar.
Yeah. Well, they're not allowed is the answer. That's the bottom line. So yeah, like it's an exciting time. Carpet costs more than I thought. I'd like everyone to know this. I did have some feelings about potentially using cut-offs of the 40k mats to line a floor. Big shout out to Chris from the Bruces, who made a great suggestion if we had both the money, the time, or the technology. I think we have the technology, I need you to know this, but not the money or the time, is to get loads of old white dwarves, scrumple them up, put them on the floor, pour resin all over it, yeah? So we have a resin floor that's got, like, white dwarfs in it. I don't know if that's a thing, Nathan. Ever heard of that?
Yeah, good, easy. Yeah, I've seen it done for caravans and tables and things, yeah.
What, resin floors in caravans?
Yeah.
Well, I need to know about that because 100% guarantee where I'm ending up in my life is a caravan. That's not even a question.
That's because you're going to be like an old arch-lector dragging around his like hobby wagon from province to province, spreading the good word.
Yeah, and I'll be fine with that. That's actually my dream. Like I've decided recently. So yeah, I'm super into that. All right, so venue getting done up. That's fun. Which meant I've had no time to Age of Sigmar this week. I've had no time to do anything but that. Nathan, have you done any Age of Sigmar this week? Oh no, wait, we played a game.
Exactly. I was going to say I played a game against
Details.
Oh
Whose
my
garden were you
god.
in?
We were in the office. Well, the other office, the bar. That's the garden we were in. Yeah, we played some Warhammer. Nathan, what did you take? How did it go?
So I took the city's dwarf list that I've been taking, the Tempest Eye list, Caradron, and some dispossessed dudes. They were having a tough old time against your fucking salamanders. Fuck me, those things can shoot. So yeah, I think we ended up having a draw though. It was debatable at the end, but then I figured out my maths sucked, and so it did end up a draw on points. And we forgot to do fucking auxiliary thing, so that's the way.
But we've decided our new auxiliary, because with kill points out the window. So we played the Blade's Edge. And if you don't know how the Blade's Edge works, it is after start of battle round 2, someone starts, whoever's going second in that battle round gets to just make an objective, not be there anymore. So it's quite cool, actually.
Great.
Nathan went really aggressive at turn 1, jumped on all the objectives, got 6 points, and then it was a real struggle for me to push him off all those objectives. Especially, he had a 2-up armor save and all this other stuff, so normally you would think that would be quite hard to get rid of, but thankfully I just had loads of salamanders, so it was really easy. So
At least they're fairly pointed now, like at least they're a good balanced points.
0% chance that that's true. Yeah, like they just deleted everything. It was the first time I've actually ever used it. Anyway, but when you're playing a friendly now, Dan, like, what do you do about auxiliaries? Because you pick 2, like, and me and Owen have talked about this actually on the show. if you're talking about auxiliaries, there are some like the bait, and I can't remember which the other one is, that like they're super achievable. They're like 100% achievement rate. So if you're just playing a random pickup game, what do you do about auxiliaries? Nathan's suggestion was we have to achieve them all, which I loved.
That's good. I like that. Yeah, well, what if you're playing with auxiliaries, they're all always on the table, and you score as many as you can do?
Yeah,
that's
that's the one. Yeah,
all of them.
Because
you know what the best thing is when you're playing a battle plan and you're focusing on winning that battle plan, and then you have a secondary objective, and then you have a tertiary objective, and then you have an objective that's doing its masters as well. I just love having to think about 18 different things as well as play a game of War Dollies. All about it. So yeah, all of them. Fucking all the battle plans and all the secondaries all day long.
Yeah, if we could all make that a new thing, it's like, oh, would you like a random pickup game? Yes, I would. What auxiliaries? All auxiliaries in the mix.
All of them. Just every turn, you have to see if you scored them.
Just unbroken eye contact. We use them all.
Yeah, but it was a really interesting scenario. But yeah, I took the dick list. So I did a Starborn, a Seraphon army. I had Croak. I had a Bellwind. I would like to know my entire army was painted, fully painted.
Right. I mean, I love that as much as you raged about Croak 2 weeks ago, here you are, like.
What did I say? What did I say? What was the quote?
Oh yeah, you were going to use him though. That's fair, I guess. You did say that.
We all use him.
We all
use him.
Stupid model.
I mean, he didn't do that much. He just killed like half the army. The salamanders really were the ones that killed the other half, so that was quite fun. But I played the scenario really badly, and like Nathan said, in that situation, it was a new scenario for me. And Nathan had a very potent army, like save wise. You know, there was a lot of 2-up armor save going around on those dispossessed early doors, which was quite challenging to get through, which I quite liked. And I also got a double turn, and I think that would have
challenging, you fucker. You just went straight through it like fucking hot knife through butter.
Yeah, I especially liked it.
One salamander just wiped out 10 hammerers in a shot, just like one shooting on that. Only one of them's in range. Oh well, I'll just fire this one at that, and then those two at that gyro bomber.
I loved it.
Yeah, dead.
It was great. I was like, one salamander at them, they're dead. 2 salamanders at the other 10, they're dead. And then charge, kill the other thing. They are so fucking dumb. I had a great.
The thing is, they're the grossest models as well. Please,
not mine.
They're going to be. Oh, you've got the cool ones, right?
Yeah. From Miss Miniatures. Yeah.
But we're going to see. This is the thing that I don't like, right? They've made them absolutely baller. We're going to see them at tournaments, well, when tournaments kick back on, but we're going to see them everywhere. And they're these basic arsehole models that look really jacked up. So just all I would love is for them to update the model so that when I'm seeing them everywhere, they're not hurting my eyes.
Yeah, I'm with you.
They're hurting the models big time.
Yeah, just take your toys off the table, mate.
I honestly think the 2 rules writers are fucking chuckling their asses off back in the studio, or on Skype to each other. They're like, just picture this: they're in like a wheelie chair, and they got one of them's got their leg crossed. He's got a scotch in one hand. He's just kind of spinning around, and he's like, and guess what? I'll pick the ugliest model and make it the best one. And then the other one's just fucking cry laughing as he sat on his Hamachi machine, and they're just having a great time.
Yeah, or like the time when they probably came together this after everyone was running, 30 Liberators in Vanguard Wing. They came together and like, hey, all those people who just bought, built, and painted up 30 to 60 Liberators, and he's like, yeah. And then
Fuck
he went,
those guys.
And then he was like, how do you reckon about 90 Sequitors? And they were both like, break out the scotch, and just started like pouring themselves triple cast. They're like, we've done it again, boys.
Those two are my favourite fucking people.
love 'em. I
Because
love 'em.
I actually have heard that those two got fired, and it's just the two Muppets, the old fellas from the Muppets who sit on the balcony. That's it.
That's who's responsible these days.
Someone please make me that picture. I've also anyway, that was a fun game of Warhammer. But can I tell you something honestly, Dan and Nathan? And I said this while we were playing. I didn't like. I enjoyed the pure ferocity of the salamanders, but I honestly didn't enjoy the experience of playing it. Like I can't imagine me. Yeah, it wasn't a thing. I just teleported over 3 dudes. And then Nathan had a flank, and he'd done some really nice zone in with some gyrocopters. Like it was and I was just delete. Like I just deleted stuff. Like it wasn't I wonder if it's gonna go my way. They just deleted everything, which is really wild. And actually, it was only down to Nathan's excellent zoning. I wasn't really able to bring the 3rd unit of salamanders to bear because I took 9 salamanders. That's 1,000 points. And they just fucking deleted the Earth. It was dead, 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 dead. Anyway, so I'll be putting those back in the box, as pretty as they are. It was just boring.
I think it's the same thing as we've seen a number of times, like when KO first came and it was the clown car, ether cannon spam. It was all of the things where it's cool. They're never under threat. They just do the thing and they delete whatever they look at. I don't ask myself, will they kill it? It's just, oh yeah, they'll do that. And it doesn't. It's not. It's okay if it's a really expensive unit that should do everything. I'd say the thing that's disappointing is that a freaking spicy curry lizard has more firepower in it than an Arcanaut Ironclad. So he's just he rocks up and he's like, "Hey, what are you?" He's like, "I'm basically an iguana with a little bit of hot rocks in my... I ate too many pop rocks. Let's do this." And whereas the KO are like, "We have built this mighty vessel of doom." Is it better than a spice lizard? Absolutely not. No, take all the spice lizards. Fuck off our vessel of doom.
Yeah. Well, you've segued me really nicely onto Courage and Overlords, which I'd like to talk about. However, I haven't asked you if you've done any Warhammer this week and how it's been.
Mostly just hobby, and it's been dwarves, not elves. Because I'm getting my Longbeards together. And the problem I have with the Longbeards kit, I don't know if anyone's going to be able to see this, is that I don't like how short their axes are and how small the axe heads are for the one-handed. Because I'm giving them one-handed shield, obviously, because I'm rad. But I wanted them to have bigger axes. So I don't know if that shows up right there. But that's I've extended the haft of the axe and then taken the great weapon axes and put it on top. Unfortunately, it means what was just sticking one axe arm into a socket is now clean up the great weapon axe head, cut off the top of the axe of the other end, cut off the haft of the axe on the other on a second hand, and then pin all 3 pieces together. And it's I love the effect. It's just a lot of work. So I'm putting a lot of love into them, as opposed to the elves, who have they've been an elf on a shelf this week, because I think the community has collectively shamed me into working more on dwarves this week. I bowed to peer pressure. I did it. A beard pressure, in fact. Let's just go that way.
Well, that brings me very nicely on to... So I did a show earlier today, if you guys want to go and listen. Back where there was enough tournament results this weekend, kind of. There was one tournament and a couple of one-dayers, which obviously don't count. But there was some fun stuff. But
we got to get our fix somewhere, right? It's been a while, so we just got to just give me it. Oh, yeah, there it is.
And to make both of you happy, of all 4 tournaments that I looked at, a Courage and Overlords army appeared in the top 3 every time.
Woo!
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Guns.
Yeah.
Guns for the win.
Loads of guns. But more interestingly, 2 Stormcast armies appeared in the top 3 as well.
Oh.
No.
Yeah.
Running what?
Well,
no.
Anvils of Heldenhammer and, one list had... So one was Big Sean from New Zealand, Nath. I know you know him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he ended up... he lost to AOS Tubbs's... Sean Tubbs Kharadron Overlord list, which won. And Tubbsy was running Barak Mornar, and he had
Good
like he
man,
had
instead of fucking Zulfin like every other bastard.
the
Mornar's
other
the one that I run. They're good.
yeah, the other three had Ziflin, so you could call them bastards now if you wish.
Bastards.
Bastards.
But yeah, but he had a one drop battalion for Stormcast, which had two battalions, which went into a third bigger battalion, and he had three lots of 3 long strike raptors, and the
Vanguard battalion.
Yeah. So effectively, he's able to fire each one of them twice. Once in the hero phase, once in the shooting phase, and they get an extra attack each. So it's 36 shots that hit on 2s, wound on 3s. Any 6s to hit cause 2 mortal wounds, rend 2 damage. So like a lot of shooting, but he lost to the shooting obviously that came out of. So that was the only 2-day event, and that was over in New Zealand. You go back watch that show from earlier if you want to find out more detail. I'll talk about that. And then there was another list with loads of castigators of all things for Stormcast. If you don't know what castigators are, because you probably have never heard of them, yeah.
Because castigators you got in the starter box. Yeah. And no one ever used because they're garbage compared to Judicators.
Yeah, shit ton of castigators. So that's fun. But I think the key point to bring out from all of that. Also, there's a great Onslaught 2020 up in Scotland, which Nathan, you and me are going to next year. Like we've decided, or I've decided for us. FYI. So we're going. The guys have said that they want us to come up, and I really want to go up there. But that was won by Legion of Chaos Ascendant, so I'm rooting for that. So that's a cool little thing. But yeah, I think the key point actually just from the tournament results, and again, if you go back and listen to the show earlier, a lot of shooting in the meta at the minute, like a lot of shooting. It's not an insignificant amount of damage coming out that Stormcast list, nor is it very difficult to replicate. 3 units of 3 long strike raptors, 3 units of Aether Wings, 3 units of Vanguard Hunters, some Paladors, some others, like some characters. Really not very difficult to get on the tabletop. Like, if you could probably buy it tomorrow and have it done by next week. So bit of a piece, very different to like the 120 dispossessed you could potentially do in a city's army.
How many players were there at that 2-dayer?
There was. So this is in New Zealand. So obviously because Jacinda's a badass, all hail the J Dog. Bling Marine, thanks for subscribing. What did I think they had 40. I'm gonna say that could be wrong.
I just usually with the Vanguard like snipey armies that are relying on the anvils double shooting, you usually don't see them pull out the top spots because they're more of like a gatekeeper. So
shooting.
Yeah. You usually see them go down to something along the way. Like losing out to shooting there. I'm impressed that somebody's done something slightly different with them rather than just a unit of 9.
I think the key element there is obviously the guys in the chat saying that Vanguard chamber, because you get all of these, you get these kind of, you get a lot of command points as well, because you're taking 3 battalions, so you end up with 3, and then turn 4. It's a 1 drop as well, so you've got everything encased in there. So really, really cool, and I think you'll see it a lot. Actually, if you go back to Age of Sigmar 6 Nations last year. So last summer, when Shootcast people were still trying to make Shootcast work. Like it was a big thing, and the Shootcast list in, I think it was Coach's 2,500 Sydney GT, the 500 pointer that was at the beginning of the year. That was won by this list basically, but it just cost 2,500 points.
Before the drops.
Before the drops. So really cool.
I don't know. Can you imagine if you put Croak in it? 500 points. There you go. Croak and a Balewind. It's just what it was missing.
I think you'll find, Dan, Croak is actually not any good unless you have to spend the other points as well. This is your problem. You don't really a lot of people think it's just 320 points for Croak, but you do have to also pay for the Balewind and the Ashloth Bannerbearer. So, I mean, the Ashloth Bannerbearer does increase his range, and give you +1 to cast, so you don't have to actually pay for that unless you want magic range and dominance. And the Bellwind Vortex gives you an extra spell and the ability to cast at extra range and a better save. But you don't have to take that unless you want. I mean, but you do have to want to double the range of his spells and give him +2 to cast and an extra spell, right?
My question there is, those three things combined, Rob, do you know just off the top of your head how much those three pieces of shit units cost you?
I think it's 140 for the Ashloth, and then is it 60 for the Bellwind nowadays? It might be 50. Let's just call it 60, 200. So it makes him 520. You know, so
well, okay, but let's say it does make him 520. However, in a 2,500 pointer, you got 500 points of allies. There's Croak, there's your banner, and then the endless spell doesn't count towards your ally points. So you know what, Bob's your uncle. You can have that entire thing.
Well, that's
Just
why I would
go
advocate. I'd advocate for. I actually personally think that in order to make it safer, just make the points lower for like all tournaments. Just run like 800-point tournaments. You know, someone's like, I'll ally in Croak, but like, no, you fucking won't, son. Yeah, you barely get an army in at this points value.
Until someone takes Croak and just some like 1 unit of flame of spice lizards, and they set fire to everybody in the entire tournament. They beat the entire tournament in one game because you've got 900 points of models in 1 unit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that. Right, well, so today's show. I know, fucking salamanders. They're so funny.
Shit ass.
Well, if it makes you feel any better,
It won't.
there was a Seraphon list that also went 3-0, run by Eric Hogarnath. Remember the guy with Big
Oh,
Mar?
yeah.
Great. Yeah. No Croak, only 1 salamander, a Carnosaur.
And that salamander killed everything.
He was the actual
That's
Arnie.
all it took.
I hope he was painted silver and called the Terminator.
It was quite cool,
Norris
actually.
salamander.
He had 9 pterodons, but those pterodons, because he's taking them in coalesce, they're -1 damage for the whole army, obviously. But they get +1 attack, but then you can give them an extra +1 attack because they've got the skink keyword from the skink chief. So their jaw attacks can have 6 attacks each. So the 9-man unit, which is only 270 points, has got 9 times 6 attacks on the jaws. And then you can just point the stick at them, and any 6s to wound do mortal wounds. Now, I did triple check this because I was like, it's pointing the stick. Is that a command point? No. Is that a prayer? No. It's just fucking point. Just like those
Just
dickheads.
waggle. Just waggle your stick. You're like, yeah, there you go, boys. More chompy. Got it. Nailed it. Good, let's do this.
Fucking skink priests. Oh, fucking
They're the best. Don't worry, Nate. They're not going to be alive for long because there's going to be loads of sentinels just fucking picking their eyes out. Yeah,
Good.
they'll just be like, I'm behind. I'm in overgrown terrain. They'll be like, we don't care. We don't need to see you. Yeah, let's go. Right, well, today we're going to be talking about the GHB 2020 battle plans because we haven't talked about those yet, and it'll be fun to talk about those if everyone is okay with that. That's the plan for today. We've talked about the current news. There is some news, though, for Age of Sigmar, which we might not have... is it news? Is it not news? Our sister game, canyourollacrit.com, you should go on that. That fella, John, he's a nice guy. He talks about like fucking Shadespire, like anyone cares. And he's a nice guy though. But they've released some new Shadespire warbands, or they're going to be releasing some new Shadespire warbands, which is very exciting. There's an Uruk one and a Daughters of Cain one. Have you guys seen these models? What do you think?
Yeah, it's not called Shadespire anymore, man.
It's called, isn't it called Underworlds?
Underworlds.
No, it's not. Beastgrave.
Beastgrave Underworlds.
Yeah. Undergraves. Underpants.
Underpants. Just underpants.
Yeah. Anyway, have you guys seen them? What do you think?
I dig them personally. I love the orcs because they look so dynamic and they're really cool. And honestly, it's the first time I've actually looked at the stabby elf models and been like, okay, yeah, all right, that's not too bad. Yeah, they're not bad. I'm not going to build them. I'm not going to paint them, no matter what people might think of me or how far I've fallen. But I credit where it's due. Not bad.
Yeah,
okay.
those daughters models are sweet. I mean, them and the new Dark Elves in the Warcry thing that they released the other day. The elves are looking pretty sweet on the end of a hammer, squashed.
It's their natural habitat, I believe.
Yeah, it'd be nice to kill them. Yeah, definitely.
They look really cool. I also really like the inclusion of the Shadespire Warbrands in Age of Sigmar. I don't know about how you two feel about it, but I'm hype. Like, whenever Nathan's like, Grashnak's fucking Rangers are here, or whatever they're called, I'm like, yeah, Nath, whatever you want. Like...
Yeah, I used to play the first Shadespire bunch, didn't I? All the time.
The time.
Yeah, I've even forgotten his name. Old fucking Bone Cutter and Smasher and
Oh,
Hacker.
yeah, Gerzag the Unkillable.
Yeah.
I still play a lot of it online on Steam, and I dig it. I just think that for me, the game built and expanded and grew too quickly. Like, they started with a nice steady release, and then it just started to go so crazy. I was like, I can't keep up with this. But my biggest disappointment in them being in the game is that largely they never have rules or stuff that's good enough to make them worthwhile. Like, you compare almost all the time, it's like, oh, well, for 10 points more, I could have a unit of 10 as opposed to a unit of 5. Why would I take the crap ones?
Yeah, I really like the Beast of Chaos one. I like what the Beast of Chaos brings to the story, which is obviously, well, it brings to the table, which is, what's the word I'm looking for? Brings a really good spell, like unique. I like that if you could bring something unique through them to put them on the tabletop, because the minis are fantastic, and obviously we all want to include them in our armies. So if they could have some sort of like unique element, which is what I've always loved most about Age of Sigmar, is that there's a unique spell on a wizard, or a unique ability on this unit. And so really, like, obviously there's like efficient choices or inefficient choices, but I feel like it adds so much character. Like, who, even now, even though the rules have changed, who doesn't think skinks are just dickheads that you can't, like, trying to, like, grasp water? Yeah, you're just like, I'm going to attack. If I have to attack them, all those skinks are going to run onto my objectives, the little shits, like, all the time. And I always liked that flavor, and I feel that they could do a little bit more with it, but, probably not.
I did a show earlier this year somewhere. It'll be somewhere. It's probably on the podcast. Ranking all of the Shadespire warbands by their usefulness in the game. And to be honest, it's about a third, and that's where it is. About a third of them actually have unique spells and abilities for their allegiances, and then 2/3 of them are literally just a named version of a hero that already exists with no change whatsoever. And so you would never use that one. But then the one that rocks up and it's like, I've got a really unique, different spell for this army. That's the one that if they were all like that, like I remember almost so many Nighthaunt players that immediately put the Briar Queen in it because her spell is freaking awesome.
Yeah, exactly. But so for me, I quite like that we've got some random new Daughters of Cain models and some random new Uruk models, and that's great for the people that like those sorts of models, or even just for. I mean, I still love Mollog, right? Which
yeah,
he's great model.
The bloke that throws a fucking frog at you. How good is that?
Yeah, and there's also there's the flying squig, whatever the fuck that is, the squignado. Yeah, I'm into it. So anyway, so that's some news for some models coming out. There's also been some news about the upcoming Gargant release.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
cool.
We really want it. That's the news.
Oh, fuck.
Like, I'm fucking livid at this point. And also, what's really funny is, at the minute, now, this might not be true, but this is the general feeling I'm getting at the minute. Obviously, this isn't going to be the case for everyone. Is the 40k community are also like, I kind of can't be asked of any more Space Marines. Even the Space Marine guys are like, kind of can't be asked anymore. And they're like, new Space Marines coming soon. They're like, there's enough of this. I can't give a shit. So I reckon they could push. There's a tank coming out that looks like the other two tanks, Nath, and they could just fucking throw that to the middle of the next year. No one will give a shit. And then we'll just get Gargants in 1 week release. Because surely it'll only take a week to release it. Because it's one box for the giant kit and then the book.
Yeah.
1 week release.
So,
Rob, I heard what you said there. And I understand the logic of it. But what you need to do is you need to remember the world that you're dealing with and what you're living in. You just said surely it's one release, so it should only take a week.
Yep.
Let us remember how the Realm Lords have gone, where we've got one box and then months of nothing. So even though logically it should only take a week to release it, pretty sure it's going to be across 6 months.
We're going to release his big toenail. The rest of them will come 2025.
Yeah, you'll be able to get one, which is just a box of the old Gargant and the book. And then come February, you'll be able to buy another one. And then they'll actually split it up into 3 boxes where you don't get all the parts in one. Is probably how it's going to play out. Just so that you're ready. I don't want anyone hearing that and thinking that they're going to get their entire. That would be an absolute fallacy.
Yeah, you're not going to get it all in one day, but it would be good. Yeah,
Sweet.
they released the models. That would be the best bit of Stone Humor. They released the models, but the Battle Tome comes out in January. So you're just there like, oh man.
And they don't give you the bases, and they don't tell you the base size.
Yeah, so you can't even play them. Oh my god. Or they're all on the base size for the Dreadsaurian, and so basically impractical.
All together.
Yeah.
DIY your own base, yeah.
10 giants all on one base.
Oh dear. Well, one day we'll get the Gargants, the greatest release that never was. I think they talked about it in February, so it's been a while. Obviously, September we've got the Lumineth Realm Lords coming out. The box that came out at the minute only contained. Am I right in thinking only contains the Spearmen, the Riders, and Eltharion? No archers.
Nope, no archers.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I'm all right with that never happening. Like,
No
I'm
archers,
all right with that
no
never
hammers.
happening. Yeah.
No hammer cows, no nothing. It's the worst.
Yeah, I'm all right with the archers never coming out, if I'm honest with you.
What do you
but
mean? What's
that's
wrong
just
with
me.
them? Nothing wrong with them. They're fine.
Nothing.
They're great.
They're fine. Okay.
Long range, no visibility, mortal wounds. You don't like that?
It's not that I don't like it. It's just that when they cast a spell to reroll to hit against the unit as well, just to really piss off my chips, it's the main issue.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's still no salamanders though, so realistically, they'll kill your 5 wound heroes, but they're not going to kill an entire army and then stand there just being like, "Who sucks at shooting now?"
And then charge you and kill the rest of your army.
My favourite bit is how good they are in combat. Why are the salamanders so good in a fight? Anyway, right. So we're going to talk about the GHB battle plans today. They're quite interesting. I've done some notes. Let me just get my notes out because I've had to pick some of the battle plans for the Super Series. So I've liked different ones for different reasons. So I thought we'd talk them through. If you guys are okay with that.
Brains trust activate.
So it's also just a quick piece of news. Sorry, super quick piece of news. I don't know if this was the case last edition, or before the last GHB, but the GHB before, I thought that Doom Wheels were both behemoths and artillery, and they took up both slots. Whether or not that was or wasn't the case, I thought that was the case. I'd need you to know that. But it might not have been the case. But either way, they're not now, and they're just behemoths, which I'm very excited about, and they don't take up the artillery slot. So you can take 4 Doom Wheels
and 4 lightning cannons.
And you can just be like, pow, 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 buddy. Yeah, really exciting times for me. Really exciting
I mean,
times.
wouldn't you just take 4 Plague Claw catapults, though? They're clearly superior.
No, they're not, are they? No, they're way worse.
They're garbage.
They're garbage.
Hot garbage.
They're hot garbage. But I just want to be a Skaven shooter. That's what I want to be. I want to be a rat in the Wild West. Guns are blazing. Do we need a
Pretty sure they didn't have penicillin if you catch some kind of love rat disease back then, though.
Yes, it's true.
Charles the Snakes, ahoy!
The also Age of Shootmar, by the way. Age of Shootmar is now what we're calling Age of Sigmar. If you guys are okay with that.
That's where we're at.
Yeah, Age of Shootmar. Right. Okay. So battle plans. Battle plans. No, this isn't the battle plans. Sorry, I've lost them. they're not fucking Path to Glory. Fuck off, Path to Glory. Like, why is that always there? Does anyone know where they are?
I have a feeling that we should rename it to Finger Guns and Trouser Snakes. Just like that's the new. It's just a love rat walking down the street, being like. Meanwhile, his trouser snake's just dragging along behind him in the dust.
All right, so the battle plans. So in this GHB 2020, there are 12 new battle plans. There are 6 that you can find in the core book, and those 6 you find in the core book, like obviously came out when Age of Sigmar 2 came out. These aren't all new. Some of them are new, but there are 12 of them, and obviously we've had time to play some of them now, or we can talk about our experiences from having played them in the past. So we'll talk about the first one of my favourite battle plans. Some people don't like it. It's Knife to the Heart. Now, Knife to the Heart has got 2 objectives. They're kind of located in the top left and bottom left-hand corner, sort of a situation. They're angled away from each other. I think, according to my on-site training that I had this week from Nathan, I think they're perpendicular to the hypotenuse. So that's the angle they're at. Nathan, is that right?
Why would you bring maths into this? Why would you do that? Why would you bring...
Especially as you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I come here to count to 6, okay? And chat, I would love it if you could like just chime in here. How do you feel about Rob bringing multi-syllable words like hypotenuse into this? I'm disgusted in you.
I don't know what it means. I just need you to know that. So, anyway, but there are 2 objectives, and they're in the corners. And the difference, or the interesting element about Knife to the Heart is that you can't. This isn't a progressive scoring mission. Knife to the Heart is a mission that you play where you have to control both your objective, because your deployment is based around one of the objectives, and your opponent's objective, and your opponent is based around his deployment is based around their objective. So it's very, very, very hard to do that, because you kind of have to smash them off their objective, while at the same time you need to control and hold on to your objective. I really like this because it feels like it's an old Texan shoot 'em up, right? Like Pistols at Dawn. Like, are you going to go or are you not going to go? Now, it's kind of a fun game to play as a pickup game, because you could just basically not play for 3 turns sometimes and just egg each other on. You going to go? Are you going to go? Are you going to go? Are you going to go? So what are yours two's experiences with this?
I dig it. I really like it because for me, whenever you see it in a tournament, it's asking you if you can play a game where you do 2 simple things at the same time, like protect while you attack. And I kind of like that. However, and I know that like you could say this for any battle plan, but there are certain armies that, like you just said, they can sit there for 3 turns and then swoop in, smash you off, and capture in turn 4 or turn 5. And then that's kind of like it just becomes a staring match. And I've seen tournaments like in the final rounds where 2 very even players barely move and do anything in their first 2 to 3 turns, waiting for the other person to do something. And by the end of the game, no one's really done anything because they've just figured it's going to come down to kill points. But I really like it. I think that what I would really like would be if they had finally taken the opportunity to change it to you win if you control both objectives at the end of a battle round. That for me would be the key piece of phrasing there, where it's not just that you smash your opponent off and take the objective. It's that you have to, let's say you double turned, you got priority, went into the double turn, you hit them on their turn, then you hit them again, you took it, you won the game. But then you still had to plan well enough to hold it out until the end of that battle round while your opponent gets their return turn. That is the piece for me that's missing from making this a great match, like competitive battle plan.
Oh, really good point. I'd also just like to double down. Like, I think that's an excellent point, Dan. Love hearing that. That was excellent. Like, I'm like, should we just do that? That's excellent. But the other thing is, obviously, you can no longer now rely on kill points to get the minor or major victory, because there are no kill points. So you almost are even more so than last season. You're even forced into engaging
this
in
standoff.
this. Like you're forced to actually go in on this. Nathan, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I've played it very often, to be honest. So it's a hard one. I guess it's not a very popular one with most people as a pickup game. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And as a result. I don't think very many people play it very often. It is a very interesting one. I do remember playing against a Legions of Nagash army at Blood and Glory with my Gloomspite army, and that was it's a proper cool game to try and tease the other person out. You go and you send a little unit over there, and you think hopefully he'll send somebody to go and deal with that unit, and then he'll send more of his army to deal with them than he needs to, and then you can like pounce on them and then slowly take his army to pieces, or hopefully you've not overcommitted and left your back door open, sort of thing. So I do think the games that I've played with it have been super fun, but you just don't play it very often because most people view it as a bit of a shit game. It's I don't know why. I can see why people look at it as like being a bit of a cuck one, but it is actually. I think they need to realize it's actually quite a bit of a fun game. Trying to tease people off of their objectives.
I cucked someone hard in this mission at the Australian Masters once, and he and I still joke about it. And then I was playing Dispossessed, and he was playing what were they? The like Dragon Princes and Dragon, whatever the hell they were called.
Order
that
Draconis.
And so I rocked up with models at the table, and people kept walking past being like, "You're cooked, mate," because it was like my tiny slow dwarves didn't even have a gyrocopter in there versus his dragons and dragon princes, and I was like, yeah, right, now I got this. And by the end of the game, my one unit of iron breakers that started out as a 30-man unit, there were 6 left, and they'd walked across the table, fought their way through his entire army, and took his objective. And they had to do it by themselves because my freaking prime dropped down and failed his charge and got killed without doing anything. so even he couldn't make it work. And in the end, they did the lot. So you know what? Sometimes it can lead to these. That was possibly one of the most intense games of Warhammer I've ever played. But at the same time, I recognize that was because I was like, I'm movement 4. If I don't start moving turn 1, I can't win. So I had to, I was like doing the maths. I'm like, they can't even get there. Won't even get across the table unless we start running across. But yeah, it was honestly still one of the best games of Warhammer I've ever played.
Yeah, I honestly, I think it's given a really bad rep, Knife to the Heart, because it is one of those missions where, like, I think wargamers are very traditionally, or wargamers that try to do really, really well, are quite cagey a lot of the time. Like, they don't generally tend to overcommit, is my thoughts. And I don't think Knife to the Heart is a game of overcommitting. I just think it's a game of doing trade-offs or putting out bait. And, the priority sometimes has to go your way on this mission. It's a little bit more focused on the priority. But ultimately, I'm a big fan of the battle plan. Big fan of the battle plan. I think, and for coverage, I think it's excellent. Because you just got 2 people, just like, and a tournament where you have to win, that's why I like it at tournaments as well. Because this is one where you have to win the game. You can't just try and get a couple of victory points and win the game. This is
go for a minor. You have to try and get the major if you want to win the tournament.
Yeah,
and sometimes it can be quite hard. Yeah, I mean, you have to come up with sort of out of the box ways of winning the thing. I remember I charged his army on his objective and then retreated off just to make him charge me, and then that left the back door open, and then a whole load of fucking goblins just stuck around the back. Just took his thing, and he was like, what? So yeah, retreating.
You've got to be careful about goblins in your back door.
Always.
That's where they love to end up.
Yeah.
All the time.
With all their nets and their poking sticks.
Yeah.
Bum goblins are the worst. So Knife to the Heart gets a good rating from me as a game, and I encourage people to play that more as a battle plan. It's a bit weird knowing you're gonna play Knife to the Heart. Anyway, but it's a good one. Next on is Total Conquest. So it's 4 objectives. They're kind of equidistant in the center. They're 24 inches from the edge and then they're 12 inches up, and so obviously they're all equal, and there are 4 of them. And then the deployment map's quite interesting on this one. So you take up basically a quarter of a corner of the board. So from the center and to the middle, and that's your kind of deployment zone. But I think you start 24 inches away anyway from each other. So this is an interesting one. It had a different deployment map before in 2019. This is a really kind of cool one because it's got a different mechanic in it, which is that you get a victory point for taking off. So it's a progressive mission. You score a victory point for each objective that you hold, but you get a bonus victory point if you push someone off an objective that they hold. But there are two that are in no man's land. So you start the game, I would be holding an objective, Dan would be holding an objective, and there are two in no man's land. Number one, I've got to move on to those because I would like to start scoring those. However, if I do it with something like, let's say, prosecutors or 10 skinks or, like something small, and just, quickly nip onto the objective, those things can get smashed off the objective. And taken off me, and then they get a bonus victory point. And those bonus victory points are quite hard to pull back from in the right situation, right?
Yeah, I think if you take it, you want to make sure that you're going to hold it for at least 2 turns, so that if they take it back, you're still on parity, and then you've got a chance to try and take it back off of them. So yeah, it does make it quite an interesting one on how you're going to trade those ones.
I'm a big fan of it because I like that it's changed every General's Handbook. Like, it's similar style, but the deployment's changed or the location of the objectives have changed. And the two big ones for me that I dig about it, I love that it means that you have to run and gun into no man's land. Like, you can't just stay there. But the rad one is that it leads to some really interesting tactics. Like the Sydney Slaughter, the old version of this, but the scoring was still the same. I let my opponent take the 2 no man's land, this is when the objectives are slightly different, but I let my opponent take 2 objectives that I could have scored because I knew I could easily take them back. And so I kind of left the objectives there as bait. So he took them and I was like, great. Then I took them back and I knew I could hold them. And I'm like, you scored 2 points and I scored 4 in the same turn on those 2 objectives. And that kind of like letting your opponent get an early Hubric lead, but then pushing to take it back. I love that little like that element of strategy that this battle plan allows you to have.
Yeah, it's a really fun one. It's a really fun one. And obviously now in 2020, there's an additional element where you also get a bonus victory point if you have a leader within an inch of the objective as well. So if a player controls an objective while there's a friendly leader unit within 6 inches of it, they score an additional victory point, which is kind of cool because obviously you've got that back objective. So if you know this is in a pack, maybe you want up to 3 leaders because you want to grab those objectives and score the bonus victory points. Also, those leaders want to run onto those objectives as well. And normally you're screening against them or you're protecting them unless they're, you've got a Staliarch Lords Nagash just kind of like just hopping from objective to objective like a monster that he is. But, and I do wonder how having that now be like leader focused or having bonus leader points is going to also add to that because there's already a lot of moving parts in your head. Like, okay, if I put that there, maybe they can take it off me. That's a bonus point. And then also maybe there's a double turn or a different priority going either way. Like we as Age of Sigmar players, we're already thinking about 2 different game states when the priority roll's coming up, and now it's 2 different priority rolls, additional leaders. Like, it's a lot. There's a bit of bookkeeping, which is kind of like a negative, I think. But it's a good one, I reckon, and I think quite tactical. I think you could get really good at this particular scenario over just the other scenarios.
Yeah, definitely makes leaders a target as well. So for armies that can snipe out leaders, I think they get a bit of an edge in this.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with that. So
Especially
a good one.
People are going to have like small leaders sitting on the back objectives, but if you've got friggin' sentinels threatening them, then they're going to be right bastards to play against in this.
They are going to be right bastards. What kind of a prick would use them?
Also, the way it works is because there's 2 objectives in no man's land. If you want to Yahtzee it and get everything, then you've got to split your forces quite a lot. Whereas if you want to like hammer at your opponent and go take their objective, you've got to run forward and take that. So it's a good one anyway. So next up, beyond Total Conquest, you've got Battle for the Pass. I like Total Conquest. So Battle for the Pass, there are 4 objectives, and this is a very traditional battle plan. 4 objectives for your opponents, 4 points for your opponent's objective in their deployment zone, 1 for yours, and 2 in the center, which are based in no man's land. One of my favorite type of battle plans. They've changed the deployment map from the last time around. It was pointy and now it's just flat, which is nice because it was weird trying to get all of you. Nathan, talk to me about that. How do you feel about that change?
Yeah, that's loads better. Trying to get fucking your Grot army inside that stupid little triangle with your fucking shrine and everything was a nightmare. So, happy days. I think that's an interesting thing about the previous battle plan, is I do think you'll be fairly constricted in your deployment on that again.
On this one?
No, on the previous one.
Sorry. On Total Conquest, because it's quite a small space. You do have to get your army in.
Yeah. And you've got to be 12 away from your opponent, so you're pushed back quite far into the corner. So, which is the deployment on that one is interesting. Be interesting to see how that plays out. Actually, that deployment.
And both armies start quite far away from each other as well in Total Conquest. Which again is kind of, it's actually positive in the kind of age of shoot mile that we're in now, but all those shooting armies also can just teleport and shoot you. So never mind.
Or drop out of boats out of the goddamn sky.
And that. Yeah, there's a variety of options.
They'll shoot you. They'll find a creative way to do it, though. They'll be like, hey, coming to kill you. You're like, oh, could you at least change it up a little bit? They're like, oh, don't worry. We got a new fresh hell for you this tournament.
Right, so it's a pretty standard battle plan, this one. I like this one because it really encourages trading in the middle. But it's got quite a deep deployment, 18 inches on the deployment. So like your back edge to the front edge, and it's also quite wide, obviously, because it's flipped around. It's not as because it's the side board edges. So there's lots of room for people to jump into your backfield. So if you don't have something you could string out the back, then deep striking units could potentially threaten the middle there. But it is a bit of a mosh in the middle. But I really like this. I think it encourages good games. I think the scenery is really important in this one. How that's laid out on the tabletop affects this one quite a lot. But I always like watching, and I always like playing Battle for the Past. I think it's just a good mission. It's
awesome. It's great. It's fun. It's also, I love that the home objective is worth 4 to your opponent, because it's that ultimate risk to reward as you push up the board, going for your opponents, making sure they can't even, I've sacrificed like a third of my army just to take my opponents for 1 turn. And be like, cool, if I can take theirs for 1 turn, score 4 points on it, it doesn't matter if I then, they score the rest of the board next turn, they're still, except for mine, they're only picking up 5.
Yeah.
And it's great.
I always like the 2 armies that are side-eyeing each other. So one of them takes so one takes one of the midfield objectives, the other takes the other one, and they kind of pass like ships in the night. And they're like, where are you going? It's like, go to your objective. Where are you going to your objective? It's like, do you want to fight about it? Like, no, we're just going to pass each other. Yeah, fucking...
I saw 2 at a tournament just before COVID, 2 Petrifex Elite armies, identical with Nagash. The Nexuses had gone down on identical sides either time, and I'm pretty sure I've got a photo of the moment the 2 Nagashes with a screen of Mortek Guard and a Harvester beside them passed each other on the way to the objectives, and then they just swapped. They ended up completely swapping army board sides. It was great. Couldn't have happened to a nicer allegiance.
So Battle Pass is a great one. It's also good to play with your friends. It's a good pick-up one. So I really like this. Nathan, you got any thoughts on Battle for the Pass?
It's just so the scoring thing is cool. Yeah, like you're saying, with the 4 points for the opponent's one, definitely those armies that are good at retreating through other people's armies onto their back objectives have a great time, which is what goblins like doing. So yeah, goblins in your back door again.
All day.
But things like Skaven as well, where the clan rats can retreat and charge. That's super useful. So yeah, it promotes playing those sort of charge and then retreat further into your opponent armies. It definitely helps that. So this is one that definitely I think also where you've got loads of bodies on the board, this is great. So
Yeah, I agreed with that.
because you can swarm. There's all those objectives. They're not a million miles away, but they are spread out. So you've got to still cover some ground. So it definitely promotes hordes as well.
Agreed with that too.
Unless they've got
next up,
fucking salamanders and just take everything off anyway. Fuckers.
I like how we played one game. One game. I really enjoyed it when they were on a two-up armor save against Shooting Ace. Do you remember that? That was really fun. Yeah. Nathan had loads of Iron Drakes. He's like, Forge Fire. I was like, that's cool. I've got two-up armor save against Shooting Ace. Let's go. Right, next up. Scorched. Nath, also, how do you feel about the fact that the skinks who come with the salamanders also get the 4-up armor save or 2-up armor save, whatever the situation?
All of the skinks. There's like 9 skinks for the fucking 2-up armor save against shooting them. Fuck those little bastards. They are proper horrible. You got to kill the 9 skinks before you even start chipping away at the freaking lizards that are setting you on fire.
How did those 2 rules writers sitting there snorting cocaine off of each other go, this is an okay way to do this?
My favourite bit was Nathan was like, it was like, oh, they've lost all the handlers. What happens now? I was like, nothing. Nothing happens now. It's fine.
They don't get shit. Don't get +1 to hit from the handlers or any of that shit. The handlers are just there to be super tanky, diving in front of them whenever there's a bullet or a sword aimed at them. They're like, yeah,
my puppy, protect your spice.
They're the guys in all Kevin Costner lookalikes game.
Bodyguard. Yeah, stop it, because you're making me want to run them more because they're so fun. Anyway,
they are fun.
They are fun.
They are quite fun. So fucking have it, go for it. Yeah.
Thanks, babe. I appreciate that. Right, so next battle plan is Star Strike. Twitch chat, how do you feel about Star Strike? I kind of just want to move on. I just want to be like, nah, fuck it, and then we all move on. But Dan, Nathan, you got any thoughts on Star Strike?
Norg. I'm not a fan, personally. I understand where some people are in tournaments because they like that there's that random element. However, too much. I don't like a mission that can be lost based on your army choices. So if you have an army that doesn't have a lot of speed and flexibility on the table, you are humped for Star Strike unless you get a really good drop of the stars.
Yeah, if it lands right in the middle of your army, you're like.
And as a dispossessed player, obviously that happened to me a little bit, and that triggered me. But it's more. I think more. I don't really love that aspect of it. Now to give it its comparison, anytime somebody would ask me about it, I'd be like, let me give you the example though of, and this is in the previous book and we'll get to it in this one, shifting objectives. Shifting objectives, yes, the objectives are worth different points. However, they're in one location the entire game, so you can play for it. Whereas it's kind of hard to play for Star Strike. Really, actually, Bromley's put it exactly as I would. Hate it at events, but love it outside of them.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Fair enough. Nath, what do you think?
Yeah, it does. It definitely puts armies that can summon and armies that can have ability to teleport. They just have, they've just got a huge advantage in this game, I think, in this scenario. So, yeah, it sort of makes them. Well, it just makes them better, really, because you don't know where the fuck you're going until the stars fall out the sky.
And you don't have to commit till later on. Is the other problem as well? So those teleport armies get a real big advantage in that they don't have to engage. Whereas like when all the objectives are in the center, you generally have to kind of move up the board a little bit to get involved or be a part of that process. To eventually start charging to where your opponent is. If you've got a shooting army, you could just stand off, don't have to be a part of it. So yeah, there's some real winners and losers in this one, I think, and I don't think it's particularly solid for events in any way, shape, or form. To be honest, I also sometimes think it's just not very fun. You know, the guys when I've played it, just you're like, oh, it's there now, cool, or you don't feel like you won. Oh, big shout out to Disco Rat in the chat. Big love to you. Hope everyone in Germany as well. Yeah, so I just don't see the I just don't see it as a battle plan for events. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say.
I think for there can be an element of random battle plans in advance, and I like that. But I would always still try to err on the side of, if it's a competitive event, you want people to like have more balance on the actual table. And I dig the argument that you should be flexible enough to do it. But Star Strike is one of those games where even if you plan really well, they can just fall in such a way that you cannot win the game.
Yeah, like sometimes I've planned to I'm on 2 of the 3 or like 2/3 of the board. So as long as it doesn't land on the other side, I can still play. And then it does, and you're like, well, I could never have got there. So nothing I could do.
And I remember having one where I just, for whatever reason, I think it was actually like game 1 of a tournament, and my opponent had a really just deployed terribly, didn't really capitalize on first turn, and I was in a position where I held 6 of the 3 possible drop locations for it. 6 of the 9 possible drop locations, and I was like, great. As long as one falls in one of the areas I'm holding, I can push for the other 2. All 3 dropped in a line on the opposite side of the board between turn 1 and turn 2. And I was like, well, fuck me, right? Like there goes that entire game. And I know that that's an absurd example and it doesn't happen often, but I was just like looking at that happen being like, yep, there we go. I board dominance, eat your fucking heart out, and my tiny 4-inch moving dwarves are like, boss, this is going to be a long run for us. I was like, oh yeah, we're not even marching and doing the little musician 4-inch move. You're rolling because you need 5s and 6s.
Yeah, it's a toughie. Yeah, so I personally think we should probably avoid Star Strike at events. Is my genuine feeling. So next up is Scorched Earth. Scorched Earth is a particularly unique battle plan because there are 8 objectives. It's the most objectives you can have in the game, and it's changed up where those objectives are. They're placed at various points along the board, but they're lengthways effectively. And I think they're 18 inches apart from each other, is the kind of plan. Now, there's some unique things about Scorched Earth in that you basically, starting from the second battle round, at the end of each of their turns, a player can raise an objective they control in the enemy territory. An objective in enemy territory cannot be raised while there is an enemy leader unit within 6 inches of it. So these are all fairly unique. Now, the negative element of this is that you then score D3 victory points instead of 1 for each one that you raise. So that randomness is never fun. And if a player controls an objective in an enemy territory while there is a friendly leader unit within 6 inches, they score an additional victory point when it's raised. So I can't raise it if there's a leader within 6 or if I don't own the objective. If I own the objective, I can raise it and score D3. I can also score an additional victory point if there's a leader nearby. So quite a lot of like headspace to take up there when you're playing this battle plan. And there are 8 objectives spread the width of the board. So that's a lot of area to try to cover and zone out. Have either of you played the new one yet? New Scorched Earth?
No, I've not played it. It looks quite complex, really. Be interesting to play, I think. I'm not really sold on it, I don't think, at the moment, but we'll see. I struggled with the old Scorched Earth, to be honest, but that's my own fault for being a dumbass sometimes. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this one plays, actually, because having the fact that your leaders can sort of protect the objectives and you can't burn your own ones is interesting. So that's cool. So you've always got to be protecting yours, which I think is different to what it was before. Because before you could just burn all of them, couldn't you? Yeah.
Yes, you could.
So yeah.
You could.
So I think that's quite cool.
Safe to say, most people were not fans. This is a very contentious battle plan that I know a lot of people were like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I think it definitely makes the fucking grey matter work, which I think is where my downfall came. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it plays for sure.
It's also really hard to protect all those objectives, for both players, and it's just a tough battle plan. Really rewards, maybe having loads and loads of bodies, but then you still need to punch through and get your opponent's stuff. I would say the game, Age of Sigmar at the minute, feels more elite than it ever has. Like there doesn't seem to be and that's mainly, it just feels more elite than maybe it once was. So not quite as many bodies, and in this situation, it feels like deployment's a big issue. Like dead drops, like where you deploy, because from very early, you could start burning a lot of objectives, and just kind of push through into your opponent. I feel like it's also a battle plan where you would turn a flank, so deploy light on one side, deploy heavy on the other, and then you try to push through. I don't think the center is where you would try and battle it out. But maybe that's not the case, and maybe if you think you've got the drop on your opponent, you could just like bang it all on the line in the middle and just try and push one side off.
Or just ambush them from the side with some fucking eels that just rip through your opponent's army.
Yeah, just do that.
I dig it as a battle plan and I used to hate it, but I really like this version because I think this is a battle plan that isn't about planning to win. It's about planning how much you can fail. It's like triage. I don't know if you've ever been in an emergency room where what you have is not life-threatening. So you're like, I'm at the bottom of the list. And then I personally found it really interesting while I was holding my face together, just watching how people came in and the intensity with which the EMTs had to decide who went through first. And like they obviously had to be like, okay, these people are going to be in pain, but they're not going to die. And so that's how they did it. So that's why I have incredible amounts of respect for people who work emergency rooms. But I think that's what this battle plan is. You're going, I'm going to, like, elements of this battle plan, I will fail. I will lose objectives. If you can hold 4 while attacking your opponents, you have threaded the eye of the needle and you are our Neo. So you should know everything, which is great. But I like that you have to plan to fail. And you have to go, okay, where can I let my opponent have this so that I can push on theirs and protect the important parts? It's triage, and I think it's an awesome battle plan for that reason.
I also think there's some, I know, Nathan, you talked about eels starting off the board and then jumping on, but eels would be able to cover very little board space in this situation. They might potentially... there's a lot of board space to cover here, I think, and 8 objectives. Go on.
They can just. I think they're going to struggle to protect this, but the amount of threat that they kick out at your opponents, I think it will come down to dice rolls if you're playing against eels, like how well you roll on the old D3s, because you got a good chance of getting theirs if you just fucking leave your own objectives and just run straight for theirs. Bearing in mind that they don't have that many leaders as well, so fucking take out their leaders, get your leaders onto theirs, and roll good on the D3s. So I think the downfall is that there's a D3 involved, personally. Otherwise, I think it is quite an interesting one, and like I say, it's going to require some of that grey stuff up top, which some of us are lacking in, especially when it comes to having consumed a fair amount of alcohol previous to the games or during the games. So
I think I love it that it's just like, this is one where you got to think, and for that reason I don't care for it.
Yeah. I have a question for you both. How would you both feel if it ended up being a flat 2 instead of D3?
Better.
Yeah. I mean, it could be 2, it could be 1, and then you get the extra for the leaders. I think that definitely, I think, makes it better. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So if you guys were thinking of putting this in a tournament pack, then maybe comp it so that it's just 2.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
even if you make it so that you score the turn number, because then it promotes capturing it towards the end of the game rather than at the beginning.
Or you score the amount of turns you've held it when you burn it or something like that. I think there's opportunities there, but I don't like that. Like you phrased it perfectly there, Nath. A big part of this winning this battle plan is, hey, just roll real good on a D3. Winning strategy right there.
Yeah.
Just roll good and you'll win the game.
Yeah, like if you smash it and you take 2 objectives, you take 3 objectives and they take 2, and you roll 3d3 and score a 3, and then they score 6 off their 2. Yeah, like you just feel robbed. You just be like, why the fuck am I here? This is bang out of order. So yeah, I think flat 2. I think also flat 2 means that there's as much risk reward because of all the objectives on the board, but there's also the characters become important. So I think a little bit of neatening up on that would be good. So Honest Wargamer pack amendment, that's now just a flat 2. So if anyone's keeping track of all the changes we've made, that's just a flat 2 VP. So congratulations, everyone. The Nathan Prescott version is as stated. These will all be up on the website at some point.
Score whatever the fuck you want, yeah.
Yeah. Right, next up is focal points. Hasn't changed. Well, it has changed a bit, well, not overly. So there are 5 objectives, 2 in the center. If you hold the 2 that are opposite each other, they are worth a bonus point each. So each one's worth 1 point, apart from the one that's in the center that's worth 2, and the 2 opposite each other are worth a bonus point if you control both at the same time. However, if a player controls an objective while there is a friendly monster or a friendly behemoth unit within 6 inches of it, they score an additional victory point. This is actually really massive. Like really, really big, because it's a big battle for the middle for those 2 VPs. You're often trading off for those 2 victory points with stuff flanking around. So just 2 Stonehorns just run in the middle and just mashing stuff. You know, like it's just there, like, yeah, lol, look at our bonus victory points in this situation. I think this previously was one of the kind of like you would teach someone, like if I was gonna like do like a new starter battle plan, I'd probably choose focal points or battle for the pass. Those would be my 2 that I would do. Lofthammer makes a really good point. FEC, they'll love it. Great for Doom Wheels. Yeah, like any of those monsters.
Doom Wheels. Yeah.
They'll love it. So, well, monsters. So Doom Wheels aren't monsters, unfortunately. They're the
but they're behemoths.
Oh no, yeah, they are. Yeah, behemoths. So yeah, sorry, still counts.
Well, they're fine. Yeah.
Anyway, so what do you guys make of the change to this? Because I think this change actually really changes up it'll make a bit of a skewed game for some armies versus the others. So I probably wouldn't suggest this as a new starter game anymore, like a battle plan. What do you think?
I remember seeing it a lot in tournament packs at least maybe where I was playing up until the Coco Vovo shutdown. So I'm not sure if it'll still feature as heavily. I love the idea of having battle plans that force people to think about their like list builds and going, okay, well, I need this and I need that. But not every army has access to monster or behemoth as readily, or frontline monster and behemoth. So I now don't love it as much because of that. Leader and battle line, for sure. Awesome. Every army has access to those and usually some kind of flexibility in them, whereas behemoth and monster, not so much. Like,
yeah,
all I'd think about is like Cities of Sigmar. Realistically, they have such a huge book to choose from, and they only have a handful of behemoths and monsters that they could be picking for that. So, and whereas Flesh Eater Courts, very small book, very strong on it though.
Yeah, and also, like, I mean, Lofthammer makes a good point. What do Bone Splitters do in this situation? Like, they've got almost no monsters.
Suck it up, princess.
Yeah, but all the
monsters, which is what they like to do.
That's true. Also,
it does make it hard for them, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one. So I think now they've changed what I thought was the most easy to play, kind of like most fun pickup. Like there was some tactics in it. It was a good like melting pot, like a crucible for gaming. And now it's skewed away from that, so it is more dependent in that situation, which I actually don't think I overly love. Ever since it came out, I was like, do I love this leader monster battle line thing they're putting in? And truthfully, I don't, because I think it shows the disparity. Like, I'm playing in a battle plan with a disparity of army anyway, because I've got no monsters or I've got loads of monsters, whatever it might be. But just to give me a reward in one battle plan and take that reward away from another battle plan, especially when some armies can do all of it at the same time.
Yeah. Well, again, and then there's some armies which can just summon whatever the fuck they need. So.
Well, you can't. So, as per an update in the FAQ, don't forget, So any summoned...
Yeah, summon stuff doesn't get the right keyword, except for this one. Because monster isn't a keyword. It's the behemoth thing that they don't get. So they don't get the battlefield role, but in this one, you still get the keyword. So you get the monster keyword, but you don't get the behemoth.
Yeah, so...
it's like how there's some that say leader gets you the extra point, whereas if it said hero gets you the extra point, then it still would, even if they're summoned.
Yes. Yeah, but leader is a summoned role, so any battlefield roles don't count as part of summoning. So focal points, I actually think has got more tactical. It's got a little bit more interesting. It's got more matchup dependent as well, and I don't think I hate that, but I don't love that either. So
yeah, it definitely makes people think about their list writing, especially if they know that is going to be in a tournament. Whereas if you don't know what's going to be in the tournament, then you're a bit like, what you going to do? But
Right, so that's focal points. Next up is Better Part of Valor. So Better Part of Valor is 6 objectives, and they're placed linear across the long board edge. And the scoring is different for this as well. So the scoring in this situation is basically you're rewarded for how long you hold it. If you hold it for the maximum number of turns, so from the beginning you get 8 victory points, and then it comes down, starting from 1 from the turn that you scored it, to 2. But basically you just burn them at the end is effectively what you do, or you remove them at a certain point. You basically choose to cash in your chips, and it's how long you can hold on for. How long can I hold this objective? Can I lift it off? How do I feel about it as a situation? Which is quite interesting just before the double turn. Just before a priority roll happens and you're like, am I lifting it now or am I holding on? What's my plan? So, yeah, there's it's quite interesting. 6 objectives. You guys have played this before. It's had it's had a few versions of it. What do you think?
This one, again, is one that requires some fucking brain matter, I think. That's that burning. Those burning ones take that thinking, which makes it a good one, but also makes it probably less popular with some of us.
Yes. However, the other change I forgot to mention, is that in this situation, it's only battle line that can score.
That's what I was just reading. Yeah.
That can score these objectives. So it's only battle line can score these objectives, which is pretty huge. Like that's like a really polarizing element of.
Yeah, that's a big thing, isn't it? Really, because some armies have got good battle line and some armies have got crap battle line.
Well, I mean, some armies have Longbeards and some armies don't, I think is realistically the draw there. And if you're an army that doesn't have Longbeards, you just don't have very good battle line.
It's true. It's a great battle plan.
It's just have Longbeards should be the battle plan. I dig it. I think it's interesting. It's better than it was, but it's one that because you can burn your own, I don't love it as much.
Yeah.
Because this is the one where you see people like they'll charge across the board, get control of 5 out, like 2 of their opponents on turn 2 or something like that, and then burn all 5 objectives on the board, and go, cool, you can't possibly win the game even if you hold your objective till the last turn and burn it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
like the game can be over turn 1.
Well, turn 2. You can't burn until turn 2.
Sorry,
but
turn 2.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, you could effectively shut someone down. But if you can womp their army well enough that you could hold all their objectives anyway, there's a good conversation as was the opponent ever actually going to bring that back?
Yeah, that's true.
But no, I still think it's a valid and fair point. I think the fact that it's only Battleline now, especially in if we discuss the meta that we're in, because that's important. So if you're talking about a shooting meta where if you really want to, you can just blow off the units that you need. You'd be like, okay, they've only got those Battleline units. I'm going to shoot bam, 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 those 4 or 5 units, take them out, or reduce them greatly. You might just be able to hammer their objective to even, or their ability to hold the objective till late game. So I think.
Well, yeah, it really is a negative thing for those armies that just bring battle line just because it's like a tax, and they just bring min battle line. So like a corn army where you've got all your bloodthirsters, and then you've just got some fucking blood warriors.
Blood reavers.
And then suddenly somebody just right, here's my fucking half a salamander. Bang, take off all your battle line. Game's over, isn't it?
That's true.
The game is over. Because then he can say, right, my skinks are just going to burn all of my shit. It doesn't matter if I get yours or not, because you got nothing to score with. Even if you summon something, it's not battle line, so fuck you.
That's my favorite bit. My favorite bit about Age of Sigmar now is how triggered is Nathan by salamanders. It's my new favorite thing.
They're fine.
They're fine.
Bring them all the time.
I like it. I didn't love the one where it was make monsters and behemoths. I like it with battle line, because realistically, battle line should be the core guts of your army, and you should be taking it. The only problem is where it maybe is a little bit dodge is that some armies can take eels as battle line. Yep. That's a pretty big jump from the battle line, like the quality of battle line in different armies. However, I wouldn't mind this in a tournament pack just to force people to actually invest in their core units.
Yeah.
But it's not so much as investing. How much do you want me to invest, right? Because effectively, what we're saying is everything in the army now becomes chaff, other than the battle line. But if you're running Marauders, you're laughing. Plague Bearers, you're laughing. Eels, you're laughing. If you make anything your battle line, you're in a solid place, right? You've got loads of it. But you might want to have it's the boys versus toys situation where you want to be well, I've paid, I've got 600 points of battle line. That seems fine. I want some heroes. I want some monsters. I want to have a bit of a laugh. And it's actually now that's more of an issue. That's more of an issue. Nathan, you're getting some compliments in your hair from Papa Peen. Big love to you. He says your hair looks real great. Am I trying to copy your haircut? Is the question.
I've spent ages plaiting it and braiding it, fucking oiling it.
So what do you? So
I'm glad somebody noticed. Thanks, mate.
My question is then: have you got a final thought on Better Part of Valor?
I like it, but I don't love it. Might be.
It's all right, I guess.
Where to go?
But...
Okay.
I mean, for sure, date 2, I'd be right back there. I wouldn't be we're one and done. But we'd have to have a couple of conversations just about where we were going.
It does shit on some armies, though, doesn't it? So.
Yeah.
And you don't want a passive aggressive date, or maybe you do. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you what you love.
That's not passive aggressive at all. Cool. Let's do it that way.
Yeah. No, I just think. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. Well, no, it's the battle plan is basically going I'm not going to tell you how to write an army list, but if you don't invest in battle line, I just think you're a fucking idiot. You're not a fucking idiot, are you?
You're not going to take one, are you? Good. No, fuck off.
Yeah. I'm not saying you have to pay, but if you don't, date 2's not happening. All right, okay. Well, Better Part of Valor, there it is. Shifting objectives. let's just never talk about this again and move on. End of. It's my feelings, but I will, of course, talk about it. There are 3 objectives in the centre. A very small deployment zone for all you GITS players who previously were like, right, do you know what? Better part Valor, I'm going to take loads of battle line. And then you get to shifting objectives, you think, fuck, I can't fit them all in my deployment. This is shit. And like, what do I do in this situation? There's a lot of swear words, sorry. What do I do in this situation? So really small deployment zone. Really small deployment zone, to be honest. And then in this situation, you have a primary and a secondary objective, and that changes over the course of the game. Each secondary objective score a victory point. If you control the primary objective, it's only 2 victory points. And if you control an objective with a friendly battle line unit within 60 inches, you score an additional victory point. So again, another bonus for battle line. And there's only a difference between a point between the primary and the secondary objectives now. So it's only 1 bonus point. So it moving around isn't anywhere near as impactful, but having battle line is far, far more important. You can score 3 bonus victory points in this situation, like per turn. So what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I'll be the traditional grumbling dwarf and say I liked it better the way it was.
Okay. All right.
I loved it. I preferred it in the last book where it was long deployment edge as well. Short table deployment with the 3 through the middle, like across the middle from the 2 long edges. Really preferred it that way because it felt like a tight, more desperate battle. And because the 3 objectives were close together, when the primary changed, it felt like the entire battle shifted to that primary objective in a turn. And that's what I loved. Everything was along that smaller area. Your primary goes over there and everyone's like, this way. And then a couple of like people hold back the base. And then when it changed back over that way, it was like, everyone this way now. And it was great. Now that they're so far apart, you basically plan for what you're going to play for. And then that's where the battle ends.
Yeah, I see that. I also think Stonehew is making a really solid point in the chat. I think going first on shifting objectives is obviously a massive advantage if you got the battle line. If you just run forward, get on all the objectives, thinking about Nathan's Cities of Sigmar Dwarf army. Nathan, if you just run all your stuff up, you'd have got 3 bonus. You'd have yet seen the board. You'd have got 4 victory points for the 3 objectives, primaries and secondaries all included, and then another bonus 3. So that's that's 7, and then I have to try and hit you off the objective with my battle line in 1 turn. Otherwise, you're just now racking points up.
Are you saying salamanders aren't battle line?
They are not battle lines. Salamanders are not.
Found their weakness.
We got them.
Get them, boys.
No wonder they're so cheap. It's because they're no good. Because they're not battle line. They're useless to you.
Yeah.
They are rubbish. I will put all 12 of them back in the box. Pointless they are. Pointless.
You're better off taking the skink handlers because they can be battle line, right? Just take the handlers. Fuck off the salamanders.
Yeah, exactly. That's the key part. It seems like there's a real big advantage to having a 1 drop, and almost the game could be over before the game starts in this scenario. So I don't really like this scenario. I don't like the deployment map. I don't like that element of it. It just doesn't really sing to me. Okay,
this used to be last edition. This was my favorite battle plan, and I really liked it. I thought it was a really good balance of fun and competitive. I thought that there was lots to be played for in a controlled map, so you had to get tactical, but you could still respond to things. This was my favorite battle plan, and look what they did to my boy. Look what they did to him. Why would you do this, you 2 jerks in a fireplace just being like, who shall we hurt next?
I'm going to get that as like a gif or something that we play when we talk about the rules writers. It'd be fun. Nice guys, by the way. Really like them both. It's only jest. Super nice people. Right, so places of arcane power. There are 3 of them. There are 3 objectives. They're placed in a kind of triangular fashion, corner to corner of the boards. The deployment maps, again, some weird deployment maps in this situation. So they're squares in the center. I feel like some of the deployment maps were chosen for just the aesthetic value in this setup. They're just like, you guys go in the corner, you go in the corner. It's like a boxing match. So in this situation, normal rules for controlling an objective are not used. Instead, a player controls an objective if a leader unit from their army finishes a move within 3 inches of the objective, and unless that move was a retreat move, the player loses control of that objective if the leader unit is not within 3 inches of it or it's destroyed. One leader unit can control each objective at a time, and if more than one unit is eligible, then the first to arrive controls it. Victory points. Each player scores victory points at the end of each of their turns for the objectives they control. The number of victory points is equal to the number of consecutive turns that they've held it for. So this is the Nagash or Marathi jump onto an objective, and they hold it, and they win the game. Or you got Trek, if you also want to do a got Trek at one point, which is a kind of a setup in that situation. So I've always thought that this was a really rubbish scenario. I've never liked it. It's super imbalanced for just like, it's like I've got Nagash now. How do you feel about that? Like, and I get it. There is like there's some levers that you pull in. So if you've got Nagash, you probably don't have a lot of battle line. So the battle line missions we just talked about, you're weaker in that situation. However, you're using the battle plans to try to control the army playstyles. But surely just the armies playing each other should control the playstyles, right? Not just some random bonus points based on the matchup. So I feel that random element isn't overly good. And I've always thought this was a rubbish scenario. Just because of the unkillable character on the objective. You're like, cool, what do I do now? Like, Marathi could probably score, 3 or 4 turns on an objective. Well, probably 2 or 3 turns on an objective, which is pretty shit. What do you think?
Yeah, same reason. Don't like it. I think that if it was something that made you, like, if it was anything could score but leaders trumped, different story. Or if a leader was worth 10 models, different story. Then I would be like, okay, that's interesting. But when it's just only a leader, now we're back to, I remember playing against Skyfires when 27 Skyfires or even 18 Skyfires was a thing, and they just turn one, pick out your heroes, score 1 point, and be like, there's no point playing the rest of the battle.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, cool. Yep, fair. I was like, let's go have a beer. That was a rad 20 minutes. I'm so glad I spent 20 minutes setting up my models only to lose in 20 minutes. Let's go home.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of it at all. Unless you intentionally are putting it in a list, like, so this is something you put in ahead of time. Like, you say this is there, and people either roll the dice with their army that can't play it, or Marathi turns up and is just like, I'm going to take this one home with me, I think, in that situation. Because you can basically just put Marathi in a corner and send an entire Witch Elf army at your opponent to just punch them off the objective. Like, the leader could just be murdered. And also, thinking now about the output that we're going to see in shooting, it's going to be harder to have those small characters score, so you almost have to write in a super character, which is a significant portion of your army, to hold just one objective, let alone 2.
Yeah, it also, I played this at the LVO, and I came up against a Frostlord on Stonehorn with Ethereal Amulet. I was just like, yeah, right, cool, let's do this. Let's just watch this game happen. It was cool. And then every time I got anywhere near hurting it, he'd be like, oh, I'm going to empty the cauldron. I'm like, of course you are. Of course you are. You big hoofy dingus. And Papa Peen in the chat, did I watch the new Transformers series on Netflix? You better believe I consumed the entire thing the day it was released.
Oh, okay. Well, you should watch the new Umbrella Academy. Nathan, have you finished Umbrella Academy?
No, not finished it, no. I'm good way through, but I've not finished it.
How you getting on with it?
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's good fun.
Good soundtrack, right?
Yeah. Some good songs.
Oh, Dan, have you watched it?
Yeah, I've only seen the first season, but the one that always sticks out to me is that fight in the diner, just to that like lovely poppy background. I was like, this is the most violent, happy place I've ever been in, and I love it.
The stuff of my dreams.
The new series is good.
Yeah, definitely. So, Place of Arcane Power is getting a big no, I think, from all 3 of us. Nath, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'd agree. It's not my favourite. It never really has been. But then sometimes it's hard to put a finger on it. But it is one where you can just, like Dan says, where you can just depending on the matchup, you can just lose the game really before it started. Especially now you've got things like Sentinels and Croak and stuff like that, where all of your normal characters just are fucking dead.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so next up, the Blade's Edge. So we talked about this a little bit before. So this is 6 objectives, and you just score points for holding the objectives. It's real simple. But starting from Battle Round 2, whoever doesn't have the priority, so whoever isn't going first, on the going second, who's going to get second gets to remove one of the objectives so they don't count. So you start with 6, and turn 2 it's 5, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. And there's definitely a strategy to this, which is just run on all to the objectives early and try and hold out as much as possible. That's definitely a strategy. But I really liked this. I thought it was really fun. I also think like it benefits teleporting and other stuff. But what do you two think?
Love it.
Yeah, definitely benefits the mobile armies again. With the number of objectives just disappearing as the game plays on, and scoring early, scoring heavily early is, I think, going to be quite a significant tactic in this, because obviously towards the end of the game you only be going to score 1 or 2 points as the objective, because there's just not any fucking objectives left because some bastard's taken them all. So yeah.
Nate, you do me a favour, put your mic maybe just, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, just do that. No, you don't have to, no, not that. The podcast guys will hate that. There was something happening before. I don't know what it was. Sounded like someone was running. Yeah, Dan, you got any thoughts on this?
What do you think I'm doing whilst I'm doing the fucking show? I'm running.
Remember, he's outside, Rob. He's at the side. That's why he has the background on. He's
That's
at the side
why
of the
I've got
road.
the background on, because I'm actually jogging.
I believe you'll find it's pronounced yogging where you're from. But the one for me on it that I love is like playing my ogres. The first time I played it was with my Moor tribe, and I dig that there's finally a mission where I can move on from my objectives. Like for me, whenever I had the choice, I burnt one I was already holding, not one my opponent was holding, because suddenly those gunline armies, yes, you can burn theirs to make them move, which is lovely, but I was like, I don't want to have to leave something standing on an objective. Capture it, burn it, and move on. It creates this wonderful counterplay strategy, and so I like that it can go, this is one that goes either way. Either you hold your objectives and burn your opponents to force them to come to you, or burn the ones that you have that you don't want to stand around on and be like, I'm not waiting for this. Let's poop all over it so they don't want it, we don't want it, and let's just force our big hairy boys to go forward. So I kind of like it because it's got the both sides of the coin there, where like I know that I remember seeing Beastclaw Raiders try to play objective holding games in previous editions where you're like, there'd just be 4 Mournfangs standing there on an objective being like, this is the worst. This is just, and you could see the like player
pain.
Just standing there behind them in physical pain.
Yeah. I do think the ones that you choose to burn is going to be super interesting, because you can burn objectives to make them sort of like bait. Make the other ones bait, so, and protecting units that are stood near. If you burn the objective that's near them, then sort of there's no reason really to go after them, because there's that many objectives. Everybody's fucking running around trying to get shit. So yeah, interesting.
I also would love burning the objective just under a Fire Slayers player as well. But I think the really important point to note, obviously, with this battle plan is what you're actually doing is you're not wanting to have the priority, or there's such a negative for having the priority. Like, yeah, you might be able to do a lot of damage or make it so you like ultimately just wipe out your opponent effectively, but will you? And then at what cost for holding on to certain like objectives? So, you know, I could definitely see someone like a Fire Slayer army who pretty much wants to get punched in the face and punch you back, giving the turn away in that situation, and then, you know, just saying, well, I'm burning that objective that we're never walking to. Where it's the flip reverse. If their opponent wins it, they just go, cool, you have the turn, and I'm going to burn the objective that you're sat on. So I think I like it. I like it. Maybe I got to play it more. I think it's a bit like we saw with shifting objectives. It's really going to be an advantage for armies that just run forward early. However, I still really like it. I still think it's good, and it's a nice like it's cool. I also want to build. I want to do those. I don't know if you know when you played 40k and you had those little tea lights where you did some cotton wool smoke that on top of it and they were on fire. And I really just want to put those on the battlefield and be like, burn that fucker to the ground. I think that would look cool. So yeah, I like this one. So there's 2 left. There's 2 left now. So we've got total commitment. Oh, go on.
Rob, your mic's a little bit poppy. You're a little bit snap, crackle, and pop.
Yeah. Fucking eating Rice Krispies on the show.
I know. How dare he? So
Unprofessional.
rude.
Go outside and run like the rest of us.
Yeah.
The software updated yesterday or 2 days ago, and I think that's the issue. So I'm going to stop running it through the software, which is a shame.
Because I really enjoy doing this voice all the time.
I think I'm gonna have to stop doing it. So is it okay now or no?
Still a little cracky. It sounds like a mic thing.
Okay, it's not. It's an
really?
interface thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want it, Dan? Have you got it for total commitment? Have you got the total
I do.
button?
Okay, let me have a cheeky little. Let me pull up total commitment here. Total commitment. When a mummy and a daddy love each other very much, they go through a ceremony which says that they're not allowed to. Oh no, fuck! Right, wrong book. Just getting ready to try and get my permanent residency in Canada, and I think the easiest way to do that is going to convince a lovely local that I'm not a piece of human garbage. Total commitment. All right, we are looking at the return of the diagonal deployment because obviously everything is so much better when someone has to leave their tape measure along the middle, and then we manage however far away from it. I do dig that it has the no reserves. It's amazing and it's good because then suddenly all those armies that rely on gotcha drop. I understand that it sucks that they don't have access to it, but it means that that they have to do that. Oh god damn it! Shame's pal is in the chat and is just reminding everybody of my deep dark inner shame. That's
Sorry,
okay.
Dan, I'll give you all the power you ever need. Just ask him where he was today. Just say, where were you? Just say that.
Where were you today, Shames? Where were you? Just
Shames.
Love to know where you were. So no reserves. Anything that's not set up on the battlefield is destroyed. And there's 4 objectives and they're 2 through the middle of the board are slightly off-centered, and then there's 2 down the guts right through it. And it's just about scoring. You get 1 point for the objectives in your territory, and you get 3 points for the 2 objectives in your opponent's territory. And there are no fancy leader roles or anything like that. It's just a good, solid, honest deployment on the battlefield, and then kick the ever-living bejesus out of each other. And as a dwarf player who loves what he does with his bearded folk, this is the battle that I like to see. Now, it's not to say you can't teleport once you get there, but it's just we all show up and we do what we were supposed to do.
Yeah, and I mean, so Halalex is making a really good point. If you wanted to run something like Living City, which effectively relies on you being able to do this, Living City's kind of ability is to, it's. By the way, is my mic is sorted now?
No.
Oh, really?
Still a little bit.
Okay, never mind. You guys give opinions then, and I'll shut the fuck up because that'll be annoying for people.
Living City. Yeah, fuck those guys. They should be playing Tempestar.
Correct. Or they should be playing Greywater Fartness. That was your main problem there, was that you chose the one with trees. But I understand how I do understand how that's frustrating for people who they build an army based around that. And
yeah,
I just kind of
that's their allegiance abilities. I mean, thinking about Nighthawk really and Stormcast, that's sort of their thing, isn't it? So you're sort of just taking away their allegiance ability for that scenario, which can be a bit sucky for them. But then they should learn what it's like to be a Gits player, where you don't.
You
6
don't
games
have
out
one.
of 6. Yeah.
I think there's two things. Like, I think the thing is, if you play one of those armies, you will never choose to do this as a pickup game ever, because you'd be like, why would I do that? So that's why I think there is some element to it being in a tournament, because armies that rely on some of those drop, like refuse deployment gotcha tactics, they're not going to be as reliable on it. I'm torn. I don't necessarily love it, but I see its point and I see its purpose.
Yeah, I see its purpose as well. Like, I understand what it's trying to achieve, and obviously we've got some pretty like tough, like, but it doesn't stop maybe the current offenders. Doesn't stop KO. Doesn't stop Seraphon. Doesn't stop Change Host. Doesn't stop. Stormcast is shooting you from 24 to 32 inches away, so it doesn't stop them. So
It
there's
doesn't really stop eels because they move like the
They're
fucking.
still so fast.
Yeah.
the
They
salmon
don't
cannon.
need to. Yeah. Fucking flying around.
Salmon cannon. How have I not heard that yet? That's amazing.
Yeah. Have you not seen? Have you not seen that video that was going around of people? Because you know when they have salmon farms, like,
Yeah.
and they load up like the local fishery with the salmon. They literally have a giant tube and they just fling them all in there.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. Okay, yeah, right. Now it's an eel cannon. Now it just fires concentrated hatred at you.
Yeah, but you're right. It doesn't. It for nothing and no reason alone. I would put total commitment in if I thought it would. Like if it turned off fly, now that would be an interesting battle plan. Just turning off fly would be really interesting. I think. Do you not think?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like grounding everyone so that so you're like, oh, you can't fly now. It's like, okay, you got to push that carriage on Overlord's boat. Just push it.
There's all these Arcanauts with ropes just dragging it along the ground. I would say that maybe, or if the other thing was total commitment, if it was models with fly don't count for capturing objectives. I mean,
that would proper fuck Nighthaunt.
Yeah, actually, that's true. Never mind. Well, then just
whole army is fucked.
just be like, yeah, Nighthaunt, eat a sack of dicks. Then again, Nighthaunt turns off every other army's rend, so I'm not gonna cry any tears for them, given that I used to play armies that really, really relied on rend, and I'd come up against Nighthaunt and be like, so glad I paid all this money for rend too.
Yeah. Right, so total commitment, I think the jury is still out because I think total commitment has been that battle plan where we've all always understood what it's trying to do, but it's just like, there's just a Stormcast player who's just like, dude, come on, I've got 5 protectors here, I really want to use them, and everyone's like, you suck. So, yeah.
Why are you taking protectors?
Yeah.
I like to see it. I don't mind, because I think if you're going to take out a tournament and go 5-0, and your army, and you are playing Nighthaunt, or you are playing Stormcast, or one of those, I think you did an awesome job. If you won and you played total commitment, I'm like, cool. You know how to play your army in a multiple, like, you can play your army well in different ways.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of respect for that.
Yeah, like if your trick is just I deep strike, I do this thing, and then very, very different to that is I can't deep strike, so I'm practicing a different way. Is my mic sorted now, by the way?
Yeah, you're beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that software, I'm going to throw it in the bin. So the final one, forcing the hand.
Mic worked really well when you did that.
Yeah, that was really quite crisp. It was like you were sucking the soul out of my ear. It was gorgeous.
I'm seeing stars. Anyway, go on.
And hey, can just before we get there, can I say that this battle plan, they really missed the name, and given it's what it is called, it should have been called the Dutch Rudder, because I feel like it was a missed opportunity calling it Forcing the Hand.
What's a Dutch rudder?
Oh, what's a Dutch Rudder? Well, it's where 2 people each hold on to themselves and then onto each other's hand and then move each other. So you are forcing the other person's hand without coming into contact with each other. And I just think that forcing the hand, it's a really, really nice place to put there. There'll be a few people in the chat that get that. They won't, and that's fine, because they obviously are much more clean and respectable people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds dubious, but
Yeah.
yeah.
It's also just lets you really know who your friends are. Is the key part. Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Don't
how
Google it.
good
No one
how good a
Google it.
friend are you is the real question. Because if you haven't Dutch rodded your friend, you're not really a good friend. So the final objective, battle plan, always to be called the Dutch rodder now, forcing the hand.
We're talking about mutual masturbation. Is that what we're
correct.
saying?
Correct.
Oh, okay,
Wow.
gotcha.
Wow.
That's fine. Yeah, let's do that. After.
Nathan really got all of the keywords for his search profile really down. Mutual masturbation in a garden. Nathan Prescott.
Somewhere his virtual private network is just like heating up as it's going like, we can't handle this level of secrecy.
It's a good night out in Canada, apparently. Also, and most importantly, currently, the Honest Wargamer in no way endorses Dutch rodders because they're not good for social distancing. So,
of course, yeah, good, yeah.
Unless you're wearing a screen or some sort of glove.
A mask and some gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Which is how it quite often happens, I heard. Even before COVID.
Oh God! We got so close to the end without going down this rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. I took us there, and I apologize.
I sometimes wonder why our YouTube numbers aren't high, but I know why it is because there's like some Midwestern American who's just like, no, don't you talk about the sex like this, and then they just turn it off. Yeah, me and my friend Jim, we're just good friends. Anyway, so there are.
Oh God, I was laughing so hard I lost a piece that I just spent like 40 minutes hollowing out. Good times, good times.
Yeah. Right, so forcing the hand requires 4 objectives, and 2 of them are marked player B, and 1 of them is marked player A. And in this situation, the map shows which ones are those as well, and they're separate away from your opponent. If a player controls the primary objective, they score 3 victory points. If the player controls the any other objectives, they score 1. How the primary objective point is determined between those, the map shows which objectives belong to player A, to which player. At the start of each player's turn, the opposing player picks one of their own objectives to be the primary objective for that turn. For example, if player's A's turn, player B picks one of the player B objectives labelled on the map to be the primary objective that turn. So there's, again, a little bit of counterplay for where you are on the board and which one gets you more points. So what do you guys think of that?
I like this one. Played it once with a very small. We played 1,000 points, which made it even more frantic. And then I think I played this against Alan and his Nurgle as well. So,
sorry, it's 6 objectives. Sorry, FYI. I said 4.
So it does become really interesting when your opponent picks an objective, and then you've got to formulate some way of nicking their special gold. And when it happens, it feels good. So yeah, I like this one.
I haven't played it yet, but I like it. I dig that you choose what your opponent is probably really gunning for. I'd also love to see the day where someone has all of their opponent's objectives and then just makes unbroken eye contact and is like, pick one.
Where are you giving me your special golds?
Yeah, tell me where your special place is, because I'm already in it.
I'm doing the Dutch thingamajiggy.
But it's also, there's that interesting, like you were talking about with the other one, Nath, where you can burn objectives to put your opponent's attention somewhere else. If you have a unit that you really want to keep alive until late game, and your opponent, you will choose to let your opponent or give them a goal somewhere away from that unit you want to keep alive and draw them off. I think it's really kind of cool that you're like, yeah, okay, this is going to be it. And then your opponent's like, oh, I could hang around and finish this unit, or I can play for the points.
Yeah, I don't think that's interesting from playing it 3 times, says Swan Rurik. Usually the 5-point objective is known ahead of time. The one with 20 pink horrors or 20 berserkers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely at like at the start of the game, it's pretty obvious where the special gold is going to be. But when it comes to the end of the game, when there's a lot less pieces on the board, if you've had a good game of killing stuff, lots of killing frenzy, then that's when it becomes more interesting. So I think it definitely encourages more engagement, which is cool. I like it. I think you end up with particularly bloody games. So yeah, I like it.
I'm going to reserve judgment until I've played it a few times, I think, in this scenario, and I see how I feel overall. So my takeaway from the battle plans is some good ones, some not so good ones, and I think I'm not. Initially, I was like, I kind of like the idea that there's these different battlefield roles give bonus points, but I'm kind of erring away from it at this point. I don't really feel like that really adds anything to the game that we need. And also, if we look at that and we look at this new perspective, obviously Games Workshop have got the memo that we don't like the randomness. So they got rid of the greased up goblin, and they have reduced the randomness down. In Star Strike, it's less random. In shifting objectives, it's not even worth as much, the randomness. And they've given us more agency. So there are battle plans now where we're choosing what's happening in the game, and there's more agency. And I like that. I think that's a real positive. I don't like I happen to turn up with Army Mix A and I get more points just because. I think it's kind of that's my kind of top-down review. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, I find it interesting that Star Strike went from being this version of random that we have now to then the absurdly intensely random version that we got after, and to now them being like, okay, yeah, right, okay, you didn't like that, we're going to bring it back, and now it's slightly less random again. I think there are some wins and misses, and I also think that they've done what I would have hoped, which is they added in a lot of changes and new things. So even the battle plans we liked are different, which is cool. I withhold judgment on the role thing only because I think there would have been better ways to implement it so every army can play, so that you can still reward those behemoth armies, you can still reward armies with heavy battle line or with strong leaders or whatever it is, but not then completely lock out certain factions.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Nath, what do you think?
I think in general, though, I think this is a much better set than the last set that we had. I think it's an improvement. I like the look of this year's scenarios in general. Also not 100% sure on the battlefield role thing. Be interesting to see how that plays out, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I actually quite interested in like Swan and Rurik saying, like, imagine you just turn up for a friendly pickup game, and you've got your Stonehorn list and you're playing focal points, so you just you end up like just being like, sweet, I get loads of bonus points now, and your mate's like, why? It's like, well, it's just because I turned up. Like, live with it. In a tournament format, the battle plans kind of make sense with the battlefield roles, but in especially pickup games where focal points would be definitely one I would play and pickup points a lot. It was kind of my go-to. That or Battle for the Past were two of my kind of faves. It now is a bit like, I don't know if it could be asked. Truthfully.
Well, yeah, they definitely are aiming at tournament play, I think, with these match play battle plans.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Well, it's been a really interesting conversation. Thank you to you two. If you guys have got any thoughts about what you think about them, I would like to see them in the comments below, or obviously you can tweet them at us. So if you're watching on YouTube, leave some comments. And if you're watching somewhere else, then just, do some tweets at us and let us know what you think, because we always like hearing about it. Obviously, a conversation to be ongoing as we see these played out. But, I'm glad that we all advocated for Knife to the Heart a bit more, and it was a bit more fun than maybe people think. So you guys got any takeaways, any final shout-outs you want to give?
Yeah, I'm just going to touch on what Nath said. Honestly, I think this is one of the strongest books we've had for battle plans. And it's devastating that it's come out in the middle of COVID where their tournaments are being delayed and put off and there's not as much play. It's heartbreaking, but what a great problem to have. Like in the grand scheme of things, I'm sat here frustrated that I can't play more war dollies because the battle plans are some of the most interesting that I've seen. That for me, that's a happy place. That's my good place to be.
Good points, Nathan.
Yeah. And hopefully more people bring more salamanders because they're fun as fuck.
So your shout out is basically just that salamanders are
Yeah,
shit.
just salamander players. Bring it, bitches.
Like, I've never seen you so triggered ever. This is my favourite new Nathan Prescott. When that one salamander took off all those fucking hammers, that was the best.
The whole unit of hammer is gone.
Oh
And
my
then-
god.
Yeah,
Go on.
never mind. Then the other ones didn't really kill the other unit, except when they went and fucking fought them in combat.
It's just they're just as good in combat as they are at shooting. So I think that's the real issue.
Deadly as ever.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you start killing them, all you're killing is the shitty little skinks, and they're just as tough to kill. Fucking 4-up save handlers that become whatever the fuck. And the priest that backs them up is like, yeah, fuck you guys. You've all got the right skink keyword. You can have all of these fucking buffs as well.
I mean, only run and charge, and also like plus to
Plus
hit,
one
plus
to hit,
Yeah.
and mortal wounds and all of that
Only.
shit.
Yeah, only.
From the same guy, I'd like to point out. From the same one guy.
Is he the new hag? That's the new hag, right? That
Yeah.
one guy who just takes a unit and goes like, "You're worth 3 times your points now." They're like, "Oh, really? How many points are you?" "Ah, just a couple."
70 points.
Yeah.
70
You
points.
little cunt.
Well, there's all the demonetization on YouTube sorted, which is perfect.
Sorry.
No, don't worry about it. I don't care. But YouTube guys love you. Adam Jackson, the Blader, all you guys, Noops. Yeah, you're great. All my YouTube commentators, great. Anyway, we're out. Podcast guys, stay hydrated. Look after yourselves. You know, it's warm. Drink a load of water. Talk to people you know, you love. Lockdown's hard on people. If you're having a tough time with it, reach out to someone. There's always people that want to listen, and you're always loved. And Patreon guys, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for helping me do this for a living and live.
Yeah.
So you guys are great. We'll see you
Amen.
next. We'll see you next week. Got the 40k adjacent show tomorrow. I think Big Sean is going to come and talk about his Stormcast list on Wednesday, and we've got the wonderful Mark Meermouse who's going to be discussing his Skaven list and just why he loves Doom Wheels on Thursday.
That's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. But yeah, everyone have a great day. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you soon.